Hello and thank you for joining us on the Thursday edition of Journalist Hangout. I am Benga Oreshegun. Today on the program, President Tinubu seeks National Assembly backing to fast-track state police, praises civilian JTF as Northern Elders Forum urges President Tinubu to declare state of emergency on insecurity in the north. Governor Zulum leads Northeast governors to President Tinubu wants completion of 17 roads and oil exploration projects. Well, I'll be hanging out with Mayor Akinpelu and Asukwo James. Journalist Hangout starts right now. Now let's begin the conversation. Tackling insecurity often requires a multi-pronged approach, balancing official strategy with local realities. This appears to be the thinking of President Bola Tinubu, who, after reviewing the security situation in the Northeast, said the efforts of the Civilian Joint Task Force JTF have reinforced his belief in creating state police. The president also commended the resilience and collaboration of governors in the region, noting that despite daunting challenges, they have recorded remarkable progress in stabilization and resettlement. This comes as the Northern Elders Forum is calling on the president to declare state of emergency in northern Nigeria, citing extraordinary scale of insecurity. In a communique, the forum lamented that state security agencies are overstretched and under-resourced, leaving citizens vulnerable and eroding public trust in government. Okay, Mayor, let's start this way. Now that the president is seeking the creation of state police, talking to the National Assembly, let's look at the National Assembly. What constitutional hurdles must the National Assembly, address before state police can be established?
Yeah, because the state police is a constitutional matter.
Yes.
It's in the constitution that there will be one police force. So for you to have state police, that means there have to be
constitutional amendment.
And the constitutional amendment through the National Assembly is a very difficult route. You have to go to all the state of assemblies. Okay. They have to pass it. You have to get 2/3 of the state assemblies before you can do it. And that makes it a bit cumbersome. But I agree with the president. Everybody has been saying that. It's not rocket science to know that we need state police. Because part of the tragedy of the federalism that we are practicing is that we are supposed to be practicing federalism, but in recent, because of the military incursion into our politics, we are doing unitary system. So there's not supposed to be one police force for the Nigerian state in a federalism. It's a misnomer. So you're supposed to have state police. You're supposed to even have local government police from the community police in different counties. That is how it's done, where we copied it from. In the US, where we copied the presidential system of government, every state has their own police. There's the federal police.
I thought we used to have that before the 1966 coup. We used to have the native authority.
Well, no, we used to have that because that's what was under the colonial master.
Yes,
under the colonial master. But since we've gotten into that, after the parliamentary system of government, we changed to presidential system of government. Okay. And we didn't follow through certain things that we're supposed to do. Okay. So I believe that if there is will, it should not be too difficult to really get this constitutional amendment because there is a consensus that we should do it. You remember that there was a time that the president had meetings with the governors and everybody agreed.
Yeah, the northern governors, they all agreed.
All the governors agreed that there should be state police. And they were supposed to go and each of them to do the Nigerian Institute work and then the framework for how it will be done in each state. But I don't know why it's taking this long for them to be able to do it. Because every crime is local.
Sure.
And part of the problems that we have is that we have a police force that the way it is constituted, you understand, is hampered by knowledge of the terrain where they're supposed to operate. You understand? Okay. If, for example, there is crime in Mushi and you brought in officers from Sokoto, for example, or Kano, for example. It's not as if they are not efficient. It's not as if they will not solve the crime in that environment. But if you have a state police and you have policemen from that same Mushin, that locality, it will be easy because they know each other, they know themselves. They know those to go to that will say, oh, is these people that are involved and all that. So I think we should expedite action.
I mean, yesterday we talked about a little about state police, but every time people talk about state police, there's always this talk. I hope they will not politicize, the state governors will not politicize it to go after their opponents. So what modalities or stopgaps should be in place in case state governors want to politicize the state?
You know, that is where the National Assembly will come in, you know, in trying to see how the amendment of the Constitution will also help the states. Because I know the National Economic Council, even the Nigerian Governors Forum, they met. And they said, okay, go to your state, go and form something, bring a review, a framework, you know, that at least will work for your state. And at the end of the day, I know all of them will come up with something that will either be uniform or will be targeted based on their regions. Because the kind of threat that's maybe in the Northeast is different from that of the South-South.
Exactly, it's different.
In the Northeast, for instance, we know that we are talking about Boko Haram. In the South-South, back then, we are always talking about oil installation, all those, you know, and all that, you know, because of the oil installation. But it will be different. So the framework which we are hoping that the governors will come up with, we should be able to look at how it is going to help the localities completely. Because you can't bring, just like me said, you can't bring somebody in Sokoto to come and be, you know, be policing somewhere in South-South. It's not possible because one, language barrier. Two, some people are already talking about politics, just like you said. I remember Buba Galadima was actually alluded to that fact, that they will politicize it. You know, but the thing is, Nigeria has grown into a situation whereby we need to decentralize our policing system completely, because we are not just dealing with just ordinary criminals anymore. We are now dealing with terrorists, and these are global terrorists. Because don't forget, recently we arrested people that even the UK and the US are looking for.
They praised the DSS.
Found them here in Nigeria. Here they were arrested in Nigeria, meaning that Nigeria is also being targeted as either a hotbed or somewhere they can haven for all these terrorists. So the best thing is, how can we stop this from, you know, becoming a cancer in our hands? Because already it's getting larger and larger.
But you don't think the creation of a state police will weaken the federal police?
No. By the time they come up with a framework, we'll still have a federal police. You know, anything federal government or any federal system of government means there will be a federal police, there will be a state, there will be even a local police, and even the community police. In the US, there's even university police. You know, so the police knows their jurisdiction. They know that from here, once I get to a particular point, I leave it. Just like Trump is saying something about National Guard because he wants to stop, you know, crime. You know, there are already issues about, oh, you shouldn't come because the federal, but he is saying that he has to stop criminals. So by the time he finishes with that, he can now leave the state for them. So we must always, at this point that we are, at this point that Nigeria is, with the large number of people that we have, because the population keeps increasing, we will need to decentralize our policing system.
Now, in the story, the president praised the civilian JTF, you know, for their efforts, you know, in the fight against insurgency. Now, let's link this with the state police. What lessons from the civilian JTF, you know, can be applied if state police is created?
Yes, the success of the JTF shows that the state police can work.
It can work.
Because how did it come about JTF? It was because when insurgency was very difficult and there was a need for the security forces to get indigenes who are conversant with the environment. So they got some civilian, mostly hunters, who can join the security outfit in this battle against insurgency.
Yes.
Yes, they at a point they lost a lot of men, but they've been largely successful.
Efficient.
Yes, they've been efficient. They've been able to repel attacks in several places, especially in Borno State. So that shows that if you have local police, it can work. And for the argument that the police can, that the governors can misuse state police, I don't agree with that. Why I don't agree with that is that it was not because when you look at a program, there will be merits and demerits.
Exactly.
What is important is for the merits to outweigh the demerits of of the program. And when you look at the merits of having local police and what you can achieve with it, it's more than what a governor wants to use with it. But I believe that the rule of law can limit that to a considerable extent. You understand? If a governor decides to use the state police in a way it shouldn't have been used, you can go to court.
Will they be very independent? Will they be very independent, you know, for the governor?
Of course, they'll be independent because they are answerable to the state. And part of the lacuna that we have now is that you will have a governor who is supposed to be the chief security officer of a state. Yes. But in real sense, it's not the chief security officer of the state.
Yeah, because we said chief logistics.
Because we run a unitary system, the commissioner of police is answerable to the IG in Abuja.
Yes.
If you remember, there was one sad incident that happened in Lagos when Governor Sanwo-Olu was trying to talk to an officer that led a team, and the guy was saying that he's answerable to people in Abuja.
Not to the governor.
Not to the governor.
Oh dear.
We shouldn't be.
Sure.
But that is the truth. That's the we have seen in this country where a former commissioner of police in Rivers State said the governor cannot move from one particular point to another. Yes.
I think during Amechi.
Yes, we can see. We've seen that because of that unitary system and the power comes from the IG. The commissioner of police believes that he's answerable to the IG. Yes, he works with the governor only when it does not have to be in conflict with that of the decision at the federal level. But when you have a state police, they will be answerable to the state because the state takes care of them. They're staff of the state. And their jurisdiction is within that state.
Let me even add, because even recently, Governor Dikko Rada even alluded to that fact.
In Katsina State.
Yes, he said, the bandits, I know where they are. I know where they are moving.
Yeah, that was Zamfara State governor saying that.
Yes, he said, I know where they are going moving. You know, I have with mobile phone, I can see it, I can show you.
But that's another conversation because I would want to ask that why can't you give it to security agents to go after them? But that's another conversation. But the Northern Elders Forum, they've called for a state of emergency in the north. The entire north, state of emergency, you know, on insecurity. Do you agree with them?
Well, I want to say, by the time we say state of emergency, are we going to lock down the entire northern?
So, what type of state of emergency should we be looking at?
You know, I think what the president is trying to do is, rather than look like an holistic, overview and say, let's declare state of emergency. He's picking it one after the other. I'm starting with Katsina. Lock down Katsina, deal with the criminals in Katsina.
When you say lockdown?
Lockdown in the sense that...
Will you suspend?
No, not to suspend.
Okay.
At least more foot on the ground, more troops, the use of technology, because I heard him saying drones and then also manning the borders. Because Katsina to Niger Niger is very close. You know?
Yes, yeah, exactly.
So the best thing is close the border, make sure that nobody comes in, or if you are coming, make sure it's legitimate, okay? And then the use of drones to know where these guys are, these criminal elements, where they are, and from there we'll be able to deal with. If we start with that, and then we succeed in Katsina, we can move that same template and move to Zamfara. So we don't need to lock the entire, north. I know even because there was a day because was, had the journalist hang out here, the commissioner in Kogi was mentioning names of places that they have gone to. Kogi used to be the hotbed before, but all of a sudden what happened is just strategy. So if we are using strategy, for us to deal with a situation either in one particular state, because I know that once you deal with one state, they move to another state.
They move to another state.
So if the president is saying move to Katsina and they are trying to move to Sokoto, they move to Sokoto to deal with them. The troops are still in Katsina. They can't move to another state. If they are trying to move to Kogi, Kogi will deal with them. So at the end of the day, there is no how that the northern region will not be saved. So first, let's use Katsina as a test case. When once we see that they've succeeded, I believe that the federal government will move to another state. Rather than closing and locking down and saying declare state of emergency, at the end of the day, people will not be able to move, because even if you say state of emergency, what will be the rules of engagement? Okay. Don't forget, by the time soldiers are engaging with the civilian population for a very long time, it becomes a problem.
Yeah, exactly.
It becomes a problem. We know what is already happening in Borno, that sometimes amnesty will come and say, oh, they are doing one thing or the other.
Human rights abuse.
So we don't want that. So the president has given, the go-ahead. Go there, look at what you can do, and that is the first. This is the first time I'm hearing the president saying something about state police, and also tinkering the idea of state police.
Exactly.
Because all this while, anytime they say state police, everybody will just, shove it aside. But he's saying, go there, do this, and let's see.
Asuku has mentioned a part that when we talk state of emergency, what type of state of emergency? Yes, but another thing is, do you think the governors in the north will support this or they will resist it?
Yeah, what the Northern Elders Forum is saying is that you should declare state of emergency
on insecurity in the north.
Yes, not a state of emergency as to say it in Rivers. Or a state of emergency, the kind of one that was declared by Jonathan. Where what they are saying is that, sometimes it's a word that you use. For example, if there is a disaster, for example, in a region, the government can decide to declare a state of emergency. What it means is that government will now use extraordinary powers, committing extraordinary resources to be able to solve that problem. Acknowledging that, we have an extraordinary problem on our hands, which is insecurity in this case. And because of that, we want to fight it. So we are going to, for example, they will now need to budget more funds to it, be able to allocate resources and do things different from what they used to do. That's what they are saying, not that they should...
Or maybe they shouldn't even use the word state of emergency.
No, what they're using is just to show
the seriousness
of the problem. What they're saying is just like you must have heard sometimes when people will say that, there's food insecurity.
Still, there's state of emergency of food insecurity.
There's hunger in the land. Government should declare state of emergency when it comes to food production. What it means is just that there is an emergency. So you commit more resources and extraordinary efforts to be able to solve that problem. That's what they are saying.
The other part of the question I asked you, do you think the governors will support this or resist this?
No, I don't, because like I said, what they are saying is nothing. So I don't see any reason for any governor to go against it.
You think the governors will welcome the idea?
What they are saying is that, of course, the governor will welcome it. If they say that, you want to declare state of emergency in terms of insecurity, what it means is that the state has to now commit more funds, more resources, more boot on grounds, put a lot of efforts. For example, we now to tell the governors in those states, give them things to be able to provide ammunition, provide vehicles, provide things, give extra allowance to people, commit more resources.
But let's get it straight. The president has not said they should declare. It is the Northern Elders Forum.
Yes, exactly. What they're just saying is that they are calling on the president to put in more efforts than what they are doing now, to put in extraordinary efforts that is outside the budget. You understand? That's outside, because if there's an emergency, that means you can do some things. You have to do it. It's not planned for. So all those extra resources that they want committed, they were not budgeted for. Because that's what they are saying. I like that you should lock down the
place. Because I like the fact that you broke it down this way. That not just because I thought. State of emergency, if you look at the antecedent, the one that was done in 2013.
No, it's not that.
But I know, but the one that was done did it actually work? When you say declare state of emergency on insecurity and
no, the one that Jonathan did.
Yes, did it work?
Yes, it did, because it did. Because what they did at that time, more troops were put on ground, more resources were committed. In fact, there was this rumor that they even invited some
mercenaries
to assist them in some areas.
Yes.
Then there were laws that they can impose curfew and do things and all
they
that.
Can arrest more than
yes, they can do that. They can detain people for more than. That is what you do under an emergency, because it is different from the normal thing that you do. So you have to now derive powers from a source that will make you do some extraordinary things different from what you used to do. That's what they are saying.
I like that. But if you were to advise the president, now the Northern Elders Forum, they came to meet the president, do this state of emergency. And if you were to advise the president, what would you tell him in handling this matter? Insecurity in the north.
We have started already, you know, sending more troops, okay, and engaging more with the northern governors and the northern elders. And I hope the northern elders too would also assist, you know, the president in giving credible information. Because sometimes some of them will go, they will say something. By the time we want credible information for the president or for the security agencies, we don't get that. We don't get it. You know, so now that relationship, you know, has to be there. Now the president is also working on technology, which I think is the height of it. You know, we shouldn't be talking about in this 21st century. We shouldn't be talking about tackling insecurity without adding technology to it. And more troops will be sent. Another thing should be that the local government chairman, because I know some days back, some local government chairmen were going there to sign peace agreements
in Katsina, yes, to negotiate peace deals.
They should now pull their ears and tell them you shouldn't be signing deals which the government is not involved in. We know that we have a critical situation in our hands, and now that the president is out there to see how he can solve this problem, they should desist from, you know, going ahead to say, I know people will say, oh, but if they kidnap your person, how will you do? What will you do? Payments for ransom has never giving negotiating with bandits has never solved any problem. Because they've done it in Katsina and it didn't work. It didn't work.
During the time of
the best thing is
Masari.
Yes, Masari, yes. The best thing is now that the president is serious about this particular insecurity in the north, we should begin to look at how we can also fill our ungoverned spaces, because it's very vital. Because if we don't do that, it would look as if we have just thrown money into this.
Just in rounding up this conversation in just 1 minute, how can we? They're talking about state of emergency on insecurity, but when we still have the issue of poverty, the issue of illiteracy, education in the north. How can we do this when this... Because there's a root cause.
Yes.
The root cause.
To me, there is no need to declare any state of emergency. If we want to declare a state of emergency, we should even declare state of emergency in the entire country, because every facet that you look, we have challenges. Whether it's security, whether it is hunger, whether it is education, whether it's health. So you don't need to declare state of emergency to do the needful. I just think that the government, they're doing well. They've done their best.
They should intensify.
But I think they should do more. They should do more, because the level of insecurity, not only in the north, in the entire country, it's just that it is more prevalent in the north because we have banditry in the northwest.
Not so bad in the west.
Yes, so it is important for us, for the government to do more, to be able to try to solve this problem of insecurity.
Absolutely.
But we acknowledge that, yes, that's a problem, but we don't need to declare a state of emergency to solve it.
Absolutely. Beautiful one, gentlemen. All right, let's move straight to our next conversation.